There are so many dynamic duos in life. You have spaghetti and meatballs. You have peanut butter and jelly. You have Fuzzy and Eternal Sadness because he is a Cleveland baseball fan. Let's not talk about that. Today what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and rank the 10 best duos going into the 2021 MLB season. I had a little bit of help from my boy Bailey, Foolish Baseball. If you live under a rock, you probably don't know about him, but if you're a normal baseball fan, you know he is absolutely the GOAT in regards to baseball content. So thank you, Bailey. We tried our best. I got his advice. I was bouncing off my opinions, and I came up with the 10 best duos going into the next season. And to be honest with you, this was not easy. Now, if we're talking about the best duos, we have to talk about the best sponsor, and that's Fanduel. You see this dollar? This is the first dollar I ever made. Using Fanduel, I was able to turn that $1 into a few extra, and you can do the same by clicking on the link in the description down below. Deposit a few bucks just to test your knowledge. We're gonna do baseball today, a $5 lobby. Now there's NBA, NFL, NHL, all the way down to League of Legends. You can win $500 by placing $5. It's insane. The scoring is fairly straightforward. Once you get into the draft, you just have to stay underneath that salary cap. So we're gonna go with Bryce Harper. You have DJ LeMahieu, who is a machine, and then Jeff Mathis for the memes, and the meme gods are going to be on our side.
My name is Jeff.
And that's it. You've set your lineup, you're ready to go and test your knowledge in an effort to win a ton of money. You can do the same for NBA, NFL, even down to League of Legends. Use the link in the description down below. Thanks, FanDuel. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with the number 10 spot. Now remember, you can let me know in the comment section down below if you agree or disagree with any of my picks, but we're going to go ahead and kickstart with the Matts of the Oakland A's. We have Matt Chapman and Matt Olson. The only reason why they're not ranked higher is because Matt Olson had a 2020 to forget. Yes, his OPS plus was still pretty good, but he didn't even hit 200. He was below the Mendoza line, and his defense did suffer a little bit, and same with Matt Chapman. They were just not the same guys, but when you take into account 2018 to 2020, I fully expect them both to be elite defensively, but because our 9th best duo, they're just so good offensively and defensively, I cannot unfortunately rank Matt Chapman and Matt Olson above Alex Bregman and Carlos Correa. So I understand Alex Bregman and Carlos Correa are two guys that not a lot of people like anymore because of what happened in 2017, and then Carlos Correa just blah, 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 just talking too much. But you have to put some respect on what Carlos Correa did just a few months ago in the postseason, just erupted, and what Alex Bregman did in 2019. One of the best third baseman seasons of all time. He put up Barry Bonds numbers as an infielder. You don't really see that too often. So for me, Alex Bregman is very good defensively, and same with Carlos Correa, but I think their ceilings are way higher than Matt Chapman and Matt Olson. Now, Matt Olson and Matt Chapman are gonna hit 30 bombs each, but in terms of getting on base, I'm gonna go with Alex Bregman and Carlos Correa, and they can also keep up defensively, but to me, they're at number 9 because Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto, to me, they're both about to have MVP seasons. I'm gonna say this right now. Bryce Harper in spring training, take it with a grain of salt, it's just spring training. He's looking like 2015 MVP Bryce Harper. So that alone, you would think, why is he not in the number 4 or 5 spot? Now, his duo partner is JT Realmuto, who probably is the best catcher in baseball. You have Salvador Perez, and a lot of people would say Yasmani Grandal is the only guy that can really combat JT for that crown. But to me, JT is the cream of the crop if we're talking about catchers. Just his offense isn't really up to par with the other guys that we're going to talk about in today's video. So because Bryce Harper is that dude, one of the more underrated players in baseball, which is crazy to say considering he's been a superstar in the game since he was 16 years old on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He had a 150 something OPS plus in 2020, just absolutely dominant. Now that he got his contract, he's actually playing defense again. So when you factor in Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto's defense, their swag, no, I probably should not be using swag in a video kind of based on analytics, but I'm doing it. Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto, to me, they're gonna have to carry the Phillies, and they're gonna do it. If I'm looking at my rankings, that's probably the one that I think I'm gonna get the most flack on. If anything, they'd probably be the number 10 spot behind Chapman and Olson and Bregman and Correa. But for me, at 8, I like Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto. I'm wearing a polo shirt, okay? I'm the smart one here. Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt, I don't even know if he said 10 words in 2020. Heck, I don't even know if he said 10 words over the last 5 years that he's been playing. Does anyone know what Paul Goldschmidt sounds like? The dude does not speak, but that doesn't mean he's not a good baseball player, that he's not good for the game of baseball. In his prime, he is a top 10 player in baseball, and when you factor in Nolan Arenado, I do believe that they're going to hit back-to-back in the batting order. You're talking about Nolan Arenado, who is up in the same conversation as Matt Chapman as the best defensive third basemen of our lifetimes, talking about people who are like 24, 25 years old and younger, and then Paul Goldschmidt, who once upon a time stole 30 bags, so he's got the defense, he's got the pop. And also, one very underrated aspect of Paul Goldschmidt's 2020 season, he cut down on the strikeouts and he was able to up his walk percentage, so that is a very good sign, especially when you're talking about Goldie, who is going into his age 33 season. If he has a better eye, and when you factor in Nolan Arenado, he's going to get better pitches to hit. And let's face it, Arenado, he rakes in San Francisco, so you can't apply the Coors Field effect. When you play in Coors Field every single day, you're going to be worse on the road because of the Coors hangover effect. So to me, just look at DJ LeMahieu. He's been insane for the Yankees. And speaking of DJ LeMahieu, he's going to be our number 6 best duo with his buddy Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge does not get talked about as one of the more elite outfielders in all of baseball, defensively and offensively. And then DJ LeMahieu, pretty much the Corey Kluber of position players. The dude doesn't say anything. I guess you can also call Paul Goldschmidt that, because both of those guys, they just show up, they put cleats to dirt, and they just play baseball. They don't care about money. But considering how good DJ LeMahieu is as a contact hitter, and when you combine him with Aaron Judge, I almost went with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, but I just don't trust Stanton to stay on the field as much as DJ, and DJ's had back-to-back top 5 MVP campaigns. So to me, Judge's power and his defense combined with DJ LeMahieu just getting on base constantly, you can't go wrong. They are my number 6 best duo going into 2021. At the number 5 spot, this was a little bit tough, and this is where my boy Foolish Baseball came into play. Now, he did say that his Braves bias might have gotten in the way, but the more I looked at it, the more that I agree, because I'm going to be placing Juan Soto and Trey Turner just behind Ronald Acuna Jr. and Freddie Freeman. Let me explain. Juan Soto, you can't say any negative things about him. Maybe his defense needs some improvement, but that's because he's young and maybe he didn't work on it growing up. He has plenty of time to become a Gold Glover, just like Corey Dickerson. He was one of the worst outfielders in baseball, and then he won a Gold Glove because, you know, he's a big leaguer. He can improve. So we don't have to worry about Juan Soto. The only person that I'm somewhat worried about is Trey Turner, because he is one of those guys that, just like Giancarlo Stanton, when they're playing and when they're healthy, they are MVP caliber players. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, Trey Turner over the last 4 or 5 years just cannot stay healthy. So I don't know if I can trust him to go 155 games. Now, if he does, maybe I would rank him ahead of Acuna and Freeman, because Trey Turner and Juan Soto, they're going to combine for 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. But defensively, they're just not as good as Acuna and Freeman, who are my 4th best duo going into 2021. I know that Ronald Acuna Jr. and Freddie Freeman are going to be Fanduel sweethearts going into the next season. Now remember to click that link in the description down below. But Acuna was kind of in the same conversation as Soto. Not a very good defender to start off his career, but he is now one of the better center fielders in all of baseball because he's got the cannon, he's got the range, he has everything that you would ever want in a superstar face the franchise player, which is crazy because the Braves have 2 faces of the franchise with Freddie Freeman, who is a guaranteed 30 home run, 100 RBI, and very solid defense. So because they have shown a little bit more consistency and the ability to stay on the field, I am ranking them just barely ahead of Soto and Turner. If you agree with that, let me know in the comment section down below. But Ronald Acuna Jr. combined and Freddie Freeman, I'm expecting at least a 12-WAR season combined, because Acuna, he's going to have his best season in baseball. That's my prediction. And Freddie Freeman, a guaranteed lock to have a 4 to 5 WAR. It's just, you can't beat that. Well, I guess technically you can beat it according to today's video, because at the number 3 spot, we are going with Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. Manny Machado is one of those guys that is quietly on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He gets a lot of flack because he's done a lot of stupid things in the past when he was beefing with the Dodgers in 2020, just yelling and all this different crazy stuff. But we cannot deny his talent both defensively and offensively. I mean, defensively, again, he's in the same conversation, or at least he was a few years ago with Matt Chapman and Nolan Arenado. He's been that guy for quite some time. And in 2020, he reminded us that he can be elite offensively as well. And then you combine Fernando Tatis Jr., who is in the top 90% in exit velo, outs above average, sprint speed. He just does everything. I'm sorry. For everyone that says Fernando Tatis Jr. is overrated, the stats say otherwise. He is elite at practically everything. The only thing that he needs to work on going forward is cutting down on the strikeouts, but that's something that you do with maturing. You're gonna cut down the strikeouts as you age. I mean, unless you're Chris Carter or Mark Reynolds, you're gonna strike out a lot. But for me, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, they're silky smooth. I love their swings. I love their defensive capabilities. They're also pretty quick on the base paths. Machado, not as much anymore, but Tatis, he's special. All right, so we're coming down to the final two best duos, and this was actually pretty tough because at the number one spot, we're going with Trout and Rendon. Now, obviously, that leaves the number two spot vacant, and we're going with Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger. So let me explain as to why I put Betts and Bellinger at number two as opposed to being number one, because we're talking about two former MVPs in Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger. They can both pop off for 30 home runs and 20 stolen bases, and they both play elite defense. I mean, you're talking about two guys, when you put their stats together, you could be looking at 70 home runs, you could be looking at 50 stolen bases, 30 defensive run saves between the both of them, yet somehow they are not the number one best duo. I just don't see them beating out Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. That's how good Mike Trout is, and that's how, in my opinion, disrespected Anthony Rendon is. He just doesn't get talked about enough. Obviously, Mike Trout, the best player in the game, just him alone. Unlike Jose Ramirez, I don't know who the other duo in Cleveland is going to be, but Jose Ramirez is not good enough to where he can really make this list single-handedly. Mike Trout, he would make the number 10 spot even if his second best player was Albert Pujols, because that's how legendary of a player Mike Trout is. And then when you combine Anthony Rendon, who was a beast defensively in 2019 and 2020. Sure, he's not Chapman and he's not going to make the flashy plays like Nolan Arenado, but if you stick him at the hot corner, he's going to be in the conversation to win a Gold Glove. That's how much I think of Anthony Rendon, and I just don't believe that you can put Betts and Bellinger just ahead of him, because Bellinger, ever since the second half of 2019 and leading into 2020, he has not been the same guy. So Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon, kind of an easy pick as the number one duo. All right, everyone, well, that does it for today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below, where did I go wrong? Did I rank Arenado and Goldschmidt way too high? Maybe Matt Chapman and Matt Olson way too low? Thank you again to Foolish Baseball as well as Fanduel for helping me out in today's video. Remember to click the link in the description down below to go sign up using Fanduel. Tell them that I sent you, because I want to make sure that I'm doing my job as well. I hope you all enjoyed. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.